Thank you so much, Jerome. It's really great to see all of you here. What a great turnout. Thank you so much for coming. We just want to cover a couple of quick things before we do our awards for the year and then introduce our keynote speaker. You should all have a copy, several copies of the annual report on your table there. Please feel free to take that with you and page through it. Covers a lot of things that we did and responsible for in 2023. I just want to hit a couple highlights. We were able to generate $3.77 million in grant funding, state and federal grants for our area. A couple highlights, that includes the Small Business Hub Grant, where we partnered with Central Michigan University, the CMURC, and the City of Harrison. The Regional Child Care Grant, and we all know how important child care is to our businesses today. We are covering a 9-county region, Region 5 and also Osceola County, working to develop short and long-term child care support for our businesses across the area. I want to have a special shout out to Tyler Hunty, who will be awarded something today for his work in the coalition and participation in the Business Leader Roundtable. We also partnered with MEDC to reach over 52 national site selectors to consider our area for their next business expansion. We hosted our first Developer Day in downtown Everett in Osceola County, bringing in 27 developers into the community. We're going to host another one of those in 2024 here. We did the Coming Home event once again here at this location. It was our fourth one, and it was a most successful one. We had 180 career-seeking individuals meet with 21 employers from across our area. Shout out to Greater Gratiot Inc., who partnered with us on that event. And also the City of Clare's Downtown Pitch. It was our second Downtown Pitch program, and our grand prize winner was Back Alley Pizza for $10,000. We're going to be doing another one this year. So expect to see us working further in 2024 on this child care initiative. Our next Coming Home event will be October 11th right here. We're going to continue to work with our regional partners. I want to recognize Joanne Crary and the team from Saginaw Future over here. We're very happy to have them join us. And we're going to continue to support our area with grant assistance, talent attraction, community development, business expansion, and business attraction. So, with all that said, I'd like to have Katie Mora, Vice President of Middle Michigan Development Corporation, my partner in all of this, to join me here as we announce this year's award winners. Our first one is our Business Attraction Award, which is going to go to Life Unplugged. Life Unplugged started off its journey as an exclusive e-commerce destination. However, in 2023, Dylan Benegas, the owner and co-founder, made a pivotal decision to anchor the brand in downtown Mount Pleasant with a brick-and-mortar presence. Originally conceived as Wonder Heart Project by Dylan and Jordan Bursma, the brand was founded on a shared love for nature and a profound desire to make a difference. Drawing from personal experience, though, Dylan and Jordan, alongside with Jordan's wife, Danielle, who endured a heartbreaking loss of a child due to congenital heart defect in 2013, felt compelled to support families facing similar challenges. Guided by their mission to give back, the trio resolved to allocate 11% of the net profits to assist families impacted by congenital heart defects, a cause close to their hearts and integral to Life Unplugged's ethos. Because of Life Unplugged's e-commerce origins, they could have located their business anywhere, but they chose to have their flagship location here in Mount Pleasant. We're proud to assist them in their property search and excited for the draw that they will bring to downtown Mount Pleasant. This year we celebrate them with our Business Attraction Award. Come on up. Thank you. Thanks, Dylan. Our next one is our Business Expansion Award going to Melling Products North. Melling Products has been in business for over 65 years, is known for their world-class engineering, product development, and distribution capabilities, primarily serving the automotive industry. This last June, Melling Products North had a major expansion in Farwell. This expansion included a new 60,000 square foot building to house new equipment and to better serve their customers, and resulting in an $11.5 million investment for the building and the new equipment. This expansion will also result in 16 new jobs for our area and approximately $5 million in additional revenue for the company. This year we celebrate this expansion by awarding them the MMDC Business Expansion Award. Come on up. We're here? Okay. We'll make sure that we get this. Okay. Our next award is the Clare Small Business Award going to Wildflower and Wren. Lacey Badout, the visionary behind Wildflower and Wren Market, last year pitched her innovative market concept to our downtown pitch competition in Clare and was one of our outstanding prize winners. Lacey's commitment to fostering connections with her flair for creating memorable experiences positioned her as a standout figure in the entrepreneurial landscape. Lacey continues to redefine the market experience and leave an enduring impact on our local communities. Congratulations to Lacey on being this year's Clare Small Business Award winner. Thank you. Oops. Sorry about that. And we will do photos at the very end for all of you. Okay, our next one is the Isabella Small Business Award going to Jib Bob Korean Restaurant, Maya Denslow. Maya's journey began in South Korea, where she established her own art studio and shared her passion by teaching classes. In 2008, she embarked on a new chapter in the United States, embracing motherhood while nurturing her artistic spirit. As a devoted mother of 2 children, Maya holds a profound belief in the power of food to foster connections and forge unforgettable moments. Driven by this belief, Maya founded Jib Bob Korean Restaurant. I gotta say, those who know me well know that I'm a big fan of Chinese food and Japanese food, but I had never really had Korean food before. And if you haven't been to Jib Bob, you're missing something. You really need to go try that restaurant. The food is excellent. So Middle Michigan Development worked closely with Maya, along with their partners in the Mid-Michigan Small Business Development Corporation, SBDC, to support and launch her business. Today she attracts people from all over the state to her establishment and has added a unique sense of place to the community. We're happy to award Maya the Isabella County Small Business Award to recognition of her hard work. Come on up. Thank you. Very well deserved. Okay. Our next one is the Osceola Small Business Award going to Hunty's Clubhouse, Tyler Hunty. Established in 1995 by Chris Hunty as an in-home daycare, Hunty's Clubhouse has grown under the leadership of Tyler Hunty, now serving as the CEO. From its humble beginnings, Hunty's Clubhouse expanded into a network of 6 premier early learning and childcare centers spanning across West Central Michigan region, including one in Osceola County. Rooted in Chris Hunty's vision, their mission has remained steadfast to provide exceptional childcare services with a focus on quality and nurturing care. Recognizing the vital role that this childcare plays in supporting our workforce and for the innovative nature in which Hunty's Clubhouse answers that call, we are proud to award Tyler Hunty and Hunty's Clubhouse team with the Osceola County Small Business Award. Come on up. I think he also didn't make it, but we will give him that award. Okay, our next one is a Collaborative Partner Award, which goes to Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. This is a very personal story for me. In 2002, our team embarked on a formidable mission to train over 200 individuals through a comprehensive training grant program. But here's the thing, it was federal money, it was through HUD, and it was designed for housing. And it had the 51% low to moderate income requirement. It was a very, very difficult program to administer. So we were looking for a partner. Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works became that partner for us. They worked with us to ensure that the individuals going through their agency for career exploration enrolled in at least one class offered through the program. Not only did this help us meet our goal of getting to the 51% low to moderate income, we ended up training 240 people by the end of the program, and ensured that many of the career seekers in our area had a credential that could further their own career opportunities locally. This year, we would like to show our appreciation to Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works team by awarding them our Collaborative Partner of the Year award. Thank you for your commitment to our region. Come on up.
You missed the Gladwin Small Business.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. All right. Our next one is the Gladwin Small Business Award, Riverwalk Place. Riverwalk Place Resort and Spa celebrates 20 years of excellence in downtown Gladwin. Since its inception, Riverwalk Place has been a hub for dining at Riverwalk Grill, boutique shopping at Chic Boutique, lodging in one of their luxury suites or hotel rooms, and serving as a key gathering place for all of our region. This year, the Gladwin Small Business Award is being presented to Stacy Plood, DeVere, and Carol Dennings. Thank you so much for your commitment to the Gladwin community.
Hunty's Clubhouse just walked in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We just gave out the, or announced the Hunty's Clubhouse Award. Tyler. Thank you. And our final award is another very personal one for me, because I served under Mike Finney when I was at the MEDC for 4 years out of the 12 that I was there, and learned so much from him. The Mike Finney Innovation Award, and this year that is going to Scott Govitz. I don't know if Scott has arrived or not. Okay. But the Mike Finney Innovation Award recognizes those who have made a significant impact in economic development. Innovation often requires collaboration, and Scott Govitz has mastered the art of bringing people together to accomplish amazing things. Scott got his start working in manufacturing while he was attending Central Michigan University, but his true passion was serving the community of Beaverton, where he was elected mayor and then served as city manager. He then became director of workforce and economic development at Mid-Michigan College and served there until his retirement in 2022. He has been instrumental in the development of the Gladwin County EDC and eventual partnership with MMDC in Gladwin County. When Scott learned that a historic school building would soon be the victim of a wrecking ball, he went to work. Through much hard work and a lot of collaboration and innovation, the Beaverton Activity Center became a reality, providing a much needed space for residents of all ages. It truly has become the hub of Beaverton. While he may now be officially retired, Scott Govitz continues to serve, to inspire, and has been recognized as a true community champion. Congratulations to Scott Govitz, recipient of the 2024 Mike Finney Innovation Award. So make sure you get that.
It sounds like he just arrived.
Oh, I think he just arrived, right? Okay, yes, I'm getting the, so we'll get that to him in just a moment. Okay. All right. Is there anything you want to share while we're with? Okay. We could. If I don't see him. Oh, here. He's coming in.
Building suspense.
Yes. There he is. Talk about just in time. Right here. Congratulations, Scott. No, truly, I can't think of anybody else that's more deserving of the 2024 Mike Finney Innovation Award than you, Scott. So you did a great job.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Okay. All right. Now, we need to move on. because I want to save enough time for our keynote speaker. So I had the pleasure of meeting Hilary Doe and hearing from her several times, and she's always been a tremendous inspirational speaker. Katie's going to go ahead and flip over to the new slide presentation. But let me just say a few things about her. As Chief Growth Officer, Hilary leads the state's efforts to grow Michigan's population, economy, and reputation as the best place to live, work, and raise a family and start a business. Hilary works alongside the Growing Michigan Growing Together Council on a once-in-a-generation effort to grow Michigan's population, boost economic growth, and make Michigan the place everyone wants to call home. Hilary is a dynamic leader in nonprofits, technology, strategy, and public policy. She served as the national director at the Roosevelt Network, where she built and led an organization engaging thousands of young people in civic engagement and social change programming at chapters nationwide, which ultimately earned the organization recognition as recipient of the MacArthur Award for Creative and Effective Institutions. She also served as vice president of the Roosevelt Institute, where she oversaw strategy and expanded the Institute's For Freedom Center, with the goal of empowering communities and reducing inequality alongside the greatest economists of our generation. Most recently, she served as president and chief strategic officer at Nation Builder, working to equip the world's leaders with software to grow their movements, businesses, organizations, while spreading democracy. Hilary is a graduate of the University of Michigan Honors College and the Ford School of Public Policy, a Detroit resident and a proud Michigander. Please join me in welcoming Hilary Doe.
Okay, breakfast was good? Yes, we got a little coffee? I can tell y'all are fired up already. You don't need me. Okay, I'm so happy to be here today. My name's Hilary Doe. I'm Chief Growth Officer for the state of Michigan. If you don't know what that means, completely reasonable. Michigan's never had a Chief Growth Officer, and Michigan is the first state in the nation to name a Chief Growth Officer. The task at hand that the governor gave me last year was to think about how we grow Michigan's population, and of course, in order to grow our population, we also need to think holistically about how we grow our economy. So we're not talking about growth for growth's sake here, right? We're not talking about shooting the moon for fun. We're talking about growth because, frankly, Michigan's one of about 34% of states that have been seeing population stagnation or declines. Every community has been able to relate to this in different ways. Some communities have been canaries in the coal mine for population declines and have seen, for example, declining public school enrollment or lower foot traffic in their communities. They've had challenges, finding opportunities for their kids and their grandkids to be able to stay in their communities. In other parts of our state, they're seeing incredible opportunity and growth, economic growth for high growth industries, but have big talent gaps. I don't know if folks have experienced that, where employers are really struggling to fill seats. Currently in Michigan, we have thousands and thousands of open jobs, and we need folks to fill them. So, irrespective of the way that you might have come to this challenge, Michigan is absolutely the first state in the nation that has said, you know what, we're going to solve it. That's why we're the first movers to take this challenge on, and we're the first because, frankly, it's the kind of hard thing that a lot of people don't say they're going to do. It's the kind of hard thing that takes more than 6 weeks or 6 months or one political term. So it's also the kind of thing that not a lot of folks raise their hand on who are in elected office and say, hey, judge me on this, But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Probably means it's exactly what you should do. And it means that it's going to take all of us to get it done, because it's a little bit of a long slog. We got to lock elbows, figure out where we want to go together, listen to each other, and go forward on a path together that we can commit to for some time, working pretty hard. I've been doing my best to work pretty hard. You'll see a little bit about that, I hope, here today. But I also hope by the end of this conversation, maybe I've recruited just a handful more partners for this big old group project that we're taking on together. Does that sound all right? All right. Okay. I got a couple nods. All right. I'm going to recruit a few more. As we go through this. All right. So I already talked a little bit about this, but I think we can all agree on this one. Michiganders are our most important resource. Our people are our most important resource, absolutely. And I spoke a little bit to the ways in which population declines, have threatened our ability to keep growing and thriving as a state in the way that we want to, in the vision that we have for our future. But let me show you a bit of a sobering graph. We're going to do a series of wellness checks throughout this presentation. Michigan has an incredible amount going for it after this year. I am more optimistic than I was before I started, so that's a good sign. And we're going to get into the hard stuff as well. Because I think if you love a place, you should tell the truth, engage in some continuous improvement together, right? And also, I was just chatting about this with someone earlier, be willing to shout from the rooftops and brag a little bit, have a little bit of swagger as well about the great things we already have on offer. The other thing I've noticed as I've been traveling the state is, we're all a little bit humble here in Michigan, and we have a lot to brag about. So I've been trying to encourage folks to both lean into the, sobering statistics and commit to making them better, so Michigan's a better and better place to call home, at the same time as we, are happy to throw a little bit of fun shade on other places that maybe don't have 3,000 miles of freshwater coastline. I don't know. Okay, so here's our first sobering graph. So this was the impetus for the governor kicking off my role. Michigan has fundamentally departed from national population growth. So again, we are not alone in this. We are it's a widespread challenge for many, many states. But for Michigan, this is specifically what our trajectory has looked like. So since about 1980, Michigan grew about almost 9% compared to the US's about 46% population growth. And so that fundamental departure occurred about the year 2000. We've been basically flat since then. And I'll speak a little bit to the reasons why here in Michigan. But what you'll see is eventually that sort of relative flatness begins to dip even more. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So the couple reasons here in Michigan are a unique story as to the drivers behind our population stagnation are twofold. One, we have domestic outmigration here in Michigan. This has been true for a long time, since 1980s, late 1970s, where you're basically domestically losing more folks from your state than you're attracting to your state. Now, to bust a myth here quickly, we aren't worse, actually, at retaining our young folks than maybe our neighboring states, but we aren't as good at attraction. So you don't get that replacement effect. And we have some troubling trends in the folks that do choose to leave. So the more highly educated you are, the more likely you are to go. If you're a highly educated person of color, you're much, much more likely to go. We need to look into those things, do a lot of listening, and make sure we're building value props that work for all of our young people. Great opportunities, great places, and welcoming communities that work for all of them to make sure we build that, reverse that trend of domestic outmigration. The other challenge that we're having is if you start to lose some of your working age folks, what do you got? You have an aging population, right? When we say we're aging faster than the national average, some folks think I'm talking about some weird reverse Benjamin Button situation. I'm not. You can still break out your hyaluronic acid if you'd like, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. We're talking about, if you sort of aren't attracting more young folks to your state, you don't have a, younger population. In every state across the whole country, we've been seeing consistent declines in natural growth. So your births versus deaths rate, that kind of thing. Folks are just having fewer kids, that kind of thing. And we had a big baby boom. Some of you might remember it. But what we need to do better at is that domestic migration number, right, in order to turn this pyramid. When we look at it, the things to point out are between 1980 and 2020, we lost between 22 and 18% respectively of those bottom two tiers, the 20 to 34 and the under 19 tier, between those in the 40-year period. But in the over 65, we gained 87% in that 40-year time period. So if you think about those working age gaps, those folks earned their retirement. They earned their spot on a boat on that 3,000 miles of freshwater coastline, and they should have a good time. But we need folks to come behind them to fill those seats, especially when we have just incredible strategic opportunities right now in things like future mobility, advanced manufacturing, clean energy. I'll speak a little bit more to that in a moment. We want to make sure we don't miss that opportunity because we have talent gaps here in Michigan. I can't help myself, so I'm going to tell you a bad joke. If anyone watched The Fresh Prince before, the way I usually describe this slide is that our pyramid got turned upside down. No one has ever liked this joke, and yet maybe think I do it for me. So, okay. So to take this on, to tackle those big challenges, something that a lot of people have said is frankly, really hard and is going to take a minute, we started in a few key ways. First, we said we got to talk to folks, right? Because this cannot be one person's project, one administration's project. This has to be a project owned by the people of the state of Michigan. So we went everywhere. In 2.5 months, we did 90 plus events all over our state. If you think about that, or in 2.5 months, that means sometimes we were doing, 6 a day. There was a lot of quasi living in one's car and a lot of Taco Bell. But I Baja blasted my way through the UP 3 times in 2.5 months and all over the state. And we didn't just stump, we were sitting with folks and doing a lot of listening. What do you love about your place? What's between you and building your future here? And took that substantive information. People have other things to do. I understand that it means a lot that they were willing to spend their life hours with us. So we put it to good work. We documented all of that. We ended up engaging more than 3,000 folks in person, receiving over 10,000 survey responses. I think it was over 11. And had over 800 zip codes represented in that feedback across our state, which we turned over along with comparative research with faster growing peer states, national polling, an incredible amount of research. I used to run a think tank. This is a compulsion. I can't help it. I'm in the data all the time. We turned it all over to the Growing Michigan Together Council, which the governor created the same time that she created my role, with the goal of building a growth agenda that we could agree on, that bipartisan group of folks who self-described as having a lot of intellectual tension. Read into that what you will, what they could all agree on, and they ended up doing just that. They voted 19-1 on December 14th of last year in favor of moving forward a slate of really bold recommendations forward for our state that they believed were big swings that would help us grow Michigan. Informed by that data, informed by our faster growing peers, and most importantly, I think, informed by the people across our state who will see themselves reflected in those recommendations. Otherwise, we don't have a shot. And so since then, we've been walking around with those recs, making sure that, indeed, folks do see themselves. Since February of this year, we've had the chance and been invited by over 60 organizations to come and speak to them and share our recommendations with them. And it's been wonderful, the warm reception that we've received in those places, because they do see themselves. The number of folks who want us to move these things forward legislatively at the state level, but also want to engage in pilots locally, to experiment locally. Growth will look different here than it looks in Grand Rapids or the UP or Detroit, and that is good. And so a lot of these recommendations should be implemented through pilot programs locally that you all design, that are specific to your community, that feature the things that are great about the place that you are, so that you can attract and retain talent right here. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But all to say, we got through this one, and I'm going to share a little bit today about our progress since and a little bit about what we've learned. So those strategies for growth, what I'm going to dig into here, again, I sort of shared, there's so much to be proud of, right, already. I'm starting on the good things. You all know this. We have 3 R1 universities. That's really unheard of. We're producing 4x the number of engineers of any other state on average. We have an incredible history of manufacturing might, and when you look forward into the clean energy future, being able to both invent with all of that R&D and manufacture the future in the same place is a unique combination that everyone else is going to be jealous of. We're sitting on the 45th parallel with 80% of North America's fresh water. To boot, you sort of can't be more strategically positioned on paper than we are here in Michigan. And we know that we also have a little bit of work to do. So what you're going to see here is us honing in on the areas where we need to do that work, because we also are 49th out of 50 right now in population growth. We're also right now 49th out of 50 in terms of folks who live here that weren't born here. So if you were born here, you probably like it. Our pretension's not bad. But if you weren't born here, you're not thinking about us enough if we're 49th out of 50. I say that should be reserved for some dusty square state somewhere. I don't know how we ended up in Michigan. I mean, I do have the state tattooed on my arm, so I recognize my bias. But I don't know how we ended up 49th out of 50, right? So that means we have to not only do this policy work I'm going to talk about, but back to that swagger, we have to brag about, loud and proud, the thing we already have going on. Because we aren't sharing that story far enough, wide enough to not be 49th out of 50 yet, right? So both those things are true. But what I'm going to dig into here is the stuff we have to work on, the things that we learned through this process over the last 8 months. So we came out the other side of those recommendations with 3 key insights that are rooted in our 3 areas of recommendations. The 3 insights were that all our faster growing peer states, there are a lot of things they don't have in common. I'm happy to answer questions about that. But all our faster growing peer states had 3 things in common. 1, they had higher and faster growing median incomes. I'll speak a little bit more about that. Michigan had some of the highest median incomes, you probably all remember, in the nation at one point. That's not currently our median income story, but that has no bearing on our future. And so we're going to speak a little bit to the plans to turn this around and invest in our entrepreneurs, our innovators, and solutions to get more folks in the workforce, like childcare and elder care solutions. The second insight was that all of our faster growing peer states had higher credential and post-secondary attainment than we have here in Michigan today. And we've been making great strides in that direction, but you got to acknowledge that's true. And they're somewhat related, right? That if you can get more folks into 21st century opportunities, you can raise average median incomes. And then this third element might be obvious to some folks, but it was important to see it bear out in the data. So it's not just some trope, something people say. But place matters. And everywhere we went, every survey we took, every national poll among young folks, the top of the list was that place mattered, that they care about transit and housing and walkability and amenity-rich communities that were driving that state's growth. So a state might be growing, but the place that was driving its growth were these magnets for talent that had specific things, to offer in those communities. And so we created a set of recommendations around ensuring we're investing and building in those places across our state, diverse places with diverse opportunities for all kinds of folks here in Michigan. So I'm going to walk through some of the sort of underlying facts behind each of these recs. Okay, we all still here? We're going to get into data land, so I want to make sure no one fell asleep in their eggs yet. No? We're all still okay? Okay, all right. Okay, first strategy. I talked to y'all a little bit about it. It's at the top. This one's rooted in, like I said, increasing our average median incomes. But the thing we honed in on was our potential in our state here to become an innovation hub of the Midwest and America's scale-up state. So the reason that we honed in on innovation, I'll explain in a moment, but we acknowledge the ways in which it's critical, if we're going to raise our median incomes, to retain and grow more of our small businesses and our medium-sized businesses here in Michigan in order to boost knowledge economy jobs in Michigan and grow our median incomes. We want our manufacturing might, we want our industrial history, we want a diverse economy. But in Michigan, we have to do that by increasing our diversity in this set, and I'll talk to y'all a little bit about that. We also have some recommendations here about attracting and retaining talent. I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to spill the beans now. One of the things we've managed to accomplish in the last year that I'm very, very proud of, I was just in New York was that last week or this week? What is time? Sometime in the last 8 days, accepting an award from Fast Company because Michigan received one of the MMDC, one of the 100 Most Innovative Companies Award for our talent work because we've officially, between our policy work, our programs, and our marketing, launched the nation's most ambitious talent attraction effort in scale and scope. We're not pulling any punches here. We're really taking it on across the state, and we're being recognized for those innovative actions. So I'm really proud of having begun that. And thanks, little claps back there. I appreciate you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so we talked about this already, but a state's competitiveness and the innovation economy can expand its knowledge economy workforce and grow median incomes. Again, there's a lot of elements you want in a diverse economy, but this is one of the areas we need to do a little more work. Why? Because in 1980, Michigan had 5 out of the 10 highest median income communities in America. Did you all know that? Out of 10, half of them were sitting in Michigan. That's punching above your weight right there, including Flint, Detroit, Midland, Saginaw, Monroe. Today, we aren't on that list. And who knows what will be on that list in 2045, but I know something if we have something to do about it. So the difference is, in 1980, you can get on that list by, having really strong manufacturing base, and you don't need to be particularly diversified. In 2016, you need to have a diversified economy with a bigger sort of knowledge economy base, and you have to help connect your young folks to those kinds of growing 21st century opportunities that are seeing growth in median incomes. And we can do even better at this. Other states have done it. I won't belabor this, but when we looked at our peer states, states like Colorado and Washington that have actually really similar profiles to Michigan in a lot of ways, have taken similar swings with a lot of success. So they've invested in sort of their innovation economies, retained more of their entrepreneurs in their states, and successfully in doing so become top states for tech, but also at the same time increase their household incomes. Again, happy to answer any questions, but I won't belabor it. What's more important is what's true for Michigan, and that is that we're already a top 10 state for patents. I may have mentioned that earlier. We already have these 3R1s. We're already a leader in diverse founder communities. Michigan currently is home to the preeminent Black tech community in America. And we have an opportunity to both, like I said, invent and manufacture in these high growth industries. I don't know if you all know this already, but Michigan's #1 in the nation for clean energy investment, #1 in the nation for hydrogen investment, #1 for clean energy backed IRA projects. The list goes on. We're already putting in the work here. We have all the opportunity necessary to back some of our entrepreneurs, and they're producing incredible work. We have an incredible ecosystem of entrepreneurs producing incredible patents. What aren't they doing? They aren't necessarily commercializing their companies here in Michigan. We see capital flight as a challenge, and what you don't want is right when someone's about to hire their first 300 folks, they flee the state looking for capital and hire those folks in California. You don't want that, especially when we have such a good environment for them here in Michigan. So you'll see things like, for example, in the governor's budget, the innovation fund that was recommended that came out of the GMTC recs. These attempts to try to keep folks capitalized here in Michigan, supported here in Michigan, wrap arms around our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses, that will produce, as you all well know, 99% of new jobs in our state come from those small and medium-sized businesses. We want to keep them right here in Michigan. Okay. But today, we currently come in dead last in per capita venture capital investment. So you'll see lots and lots of movement on this in the years to come, both at the state level, but also a lot we can do at the regional level. Okay, I could go into all the details of all the recommendations, but you can see them in the report, and I'm happy to share the slides after the fact. In addition to all of this, the only other thing I wanted to highlight was the requirement that we reduce barriers to workforce participation. Everywhere we went, childcare, elder care, and transportation came up as top challenges for folks in the labor force. Our labor force participation, I can't remember if it's on the next slide or not. No, I'll show it to you in a second. Our labor force participation did lag our peer states. And this was cited repeatedly as one of the challenges that folks have, something that we got to solve, and something that our business community can come together with, broader sets of communities to solve together. There was a lot of sort of joint interest in getting this done. Okay, the next challenge that we have is, of course, talent and talent retention. We are seeing, like I said, not horrible retention, but worse retention the more highly educated you are and across a couple of different parameters. And so we made recommendations as well to support that. I already spilled the beans that Michigan's currently 49th in the nation in terms of residents that live in Michigan who weren't born here, but there's work we can do. Many, many, many states now have talent attraction and retention programs. We don't really have those here, with the exception of one, which is performing exceptionally well, called the Michigander Scholars Program. If you aren't all familiar with it yet, feel free to look into it. They're offering $5,000 and $10,000 scholarships for folks that accept internships and jobs here in our state in critical growing industries, with the commitment that those folks stay here in Michigan after they begin their job for at least 12 months. And there's a wait list. We have already 700 folks enrolled in those programs. There's tons of interest, and we've just begun. Other states, West Virginia, for example, which is the only state growing more slowly than Michigan right now, launched their program and already have 42,000 applicants of folks who are interested in participating. These programs are working in other places, and they're things that we can learn from and try here in Michigan. Okay. I'm going to keep going. I want to highlight one more thing because I didn't talk about it yet. Green shoots in our population growth. International migration has been and is a green shoot in almost every single county in Michigan. We might be losing folks with domestic migration, but we tend to gain folks through international migration who are major contributors to economic growth. All right. Okay, this was our labor force participation slide. Here's where we are today. And again, child care was continuously cited as one of those challenges, but also age is another one. Remember all those folks that deserve that boat ride? That's one of them. And two is education. Places with lower post-secondary education, lower credentialing, fewer folks in the trades tend to have lower labor force participation because there are fewer connection to opportunity, right? Which brings us to our second bit. I'm gonna speed through these. The second one is around lifelong learning systems and our recognition that we need to boost post-secondary education. I could not, in this time, do justice to the incredible amount of work that went into these education recommendations. The NCEE, the National Conference of Education, they have looked at them, they have celebrated them. Michigan has every right on the back of these to be on the cusp of incredible growth in our education outcomes. And you're seeing really ambitious policy agendas getting moved forward here, recommendations, for example, around a promise for every Michigan student to be able to get access to post-secondary education. You saw that going through, being considered right now in this budget cycle. Programs that could really set Michigan apart and seem to work and bear out in the data. Happy to answer questions on those. But everything is in here from an acknowledgement that because less than 1/3 of Michigan students today are proficient in reading and math at 4th and 8th grade, and even fewer among students of color, we've got to take real action. This is our college readiness according to SAT scores. And again, we're not alone in this. Lots of states are struggling, but we are sharing the message, telling the truth, and acknowledging opportunities for growth like this one. Whereas Indiana, one of our neighboring states, graduates their students, 60% of them, with college credit. We currently only have folks with 7% of our graduating high school students with college credit. So these are the kinds of things we can do to support our folks, to make college more affordable, to help get folks into post-secondary education if that's what they choose to do. So I'm going to swing through these. You guys can read them all, but I already alluded to some of the recommendations, and I'll share these with you later. Really proud of that work. This is the post-secondary recommendation around the 2 years of free post-secondary education. And this is sort of the impetus or the reason why. You can see that over a lifetime, the difference between today, a high school diploma, and a bachelor's degree is really dramatic, and this has dramatically increased. It's almost doubled over the last handful of decades. So we want to make sure our folks have access to all these opportunities, like I said, whether those are in trades, credentials, or in bachelor's degrees. Okay, some sobering stats to take you home on the education side. And you all know that we've been making great progress. These were not what they are today before we had 60 by 30 and things like that. So lots of room to grow. Okay, wellness check. Do we all need another pastry? Sometimes in the middle you need a pastry to just pick yourself back up. But then you can knock it out at the end with our last little bit here, which is about place. So we're going to flip to place. So this is the fact that really drove us to think about our last metric. So the metric around place that we want to move is we want to become a top 10 state for talent migration. If you have great places that work for young folks, they're telling us that's what matters, that they need great opportunities, but they also want great places. So we looked at this stat. Currently, 80% of Michigan business leaders are struggling to fill jobs and say talent is the prime decision-making factor. Education will help with that. Specific skills training will help with that. Attracting folks will help with that. But we also have to make great places that those folks want to live and be. The number of times I've had conversations with folks around our state who've said, young folks, who've said, hey, I got a job offer in Detroit. I love Detroit, but I have to work in Southfield. And I got an equivalent offer in Atlanta, and I can take the MARTA to my job and home at the end of the night. So I'm taking that one. It's pretty heartbreaking, especially, I don't know if folks are familiar enough with Detroit to know what up, Doe? Do folks know that? People say that in Detroit? My last name's Doe, so I know a lot about it. But it's a saying. Anyway, when you ask people what they love about Atlanta, they'll say, well, they say what up, Doe in Atlanta, so it feels like home. That really hits you in the gut. What people are saying is, I love this place, but it doesn't have the place-based amenities I need. It doesn't have the transit. We don't have the housing access that I need, what have you. So we've got to do that work, too. We have to create thriving, resilient communities that are magnets for our young talent. We have one thing, many, many things, but one great thing going for us. I know we have some folks in travel and tourism who are here. Shout out. Hey, travel and tourism table. And we have an iconic Pure Michigan campaign that tells this story. But also, Michiganders here say 80% of them say that the thing they love most about living in Michigan is our natural beauty. We already have an incredible place-based amenity. You know, we can build some new housing. We can get that done. We can build some streetscapes. Have somebody else build you, you know, fresh water. They're going to struggle. Have them build you 11,000 inland lakes. I think they might tip over. We got some great things going for us here, and a real strategic advantage because folks love the outdoors and natural beauty. That's something we got going for us. Also vibrant cityscapes, diverse places, but we have some room to grow as well. I already acknowledged that folks say place matters. Specifically, they identify infrastructure as one of the areas that we need to invest in order for them to love their place. You know, they're talking about transit when you dig into the specifics, but they're also talking about, frankly, even roads. And what it's rooted under that, even among the youngest folks, is a sort of pride of place. Like, I want my place to feel nice. People will say things like, you know, I've traveled somewhere, XYZ place, and it was like really pretty. And everything was really nice and newly paved, you know, things like that. And I want our place to feel nice. I give this kind of feedback to MDOT director, and he's like, Hilary, you're killing me. You know, but I feel like we got to convey this kind of sentiment, right? Even though it feels a little squishy, because even our sort of road investments are critical in that they help continue to keep us from having crumbling infrastructure. Because what you don't want to do is get trapped in the cycle where you're losing some of your young folks. You have domestic outmigration. So you have an eroding tax base, then what happens? It's harder to provide public services, then what happens? You have worse schools, you have crumbling infrastructure, then what happens? Folks don't like the place, and then you leads to more domestic migration. You can't get in that trap. So we really have to identify what those strategic areas of investment are. That's the intention here. Can we invest strategically and incisively in retaining our entrepreneurs in the innovation ecosystem? Can we invest incisively in childcare? Can we invest incisively in a few education opportunities that'll help put us over the edge? There's a tipping point at 35% of the population. Can we get there? Can we incisively figure out how to push into these place-based amenities that folks really, really, really cherish to get us over the top and reverse domestic outmigration? And I think the answer is we can. Again, other states have done it, but who cares about Colorado? Not me. No, I'm just kidding. They did a great job. They invested in transit. It really worked for them, helped a lot with retention and migration, and also their park system. But here are some of the things that folks identify as critical priorities. I've already spoke to most of those. And specifically wanted to hone in on housing because among our young folks, this was the top priority. Among young people 18 to 34, they said housing was the top consideration when they chose where to live. And in a national poll, when we asked what talent attraction or retention incentives would be most motivating for them to consider moving to a new place, the thing that topped the list was a down payment on a home. I'm not suggesting we can provide it. I'm not suggesting it's possible, but I think it's interesting. It sort of speaks to the access to ownership, this access to an American dream, right, that they're still excited about. And that for a lot of folks in Gen Z feels impossible to attain in a lot of parts of the country. And even though folks say we do have a good cost of living, and we do, it's 10% lower than the national average, we're also more rent burdened than 5 out of 6 of our faster growing peers, because it's all about your housing costs as compared to your income, right? Both things are true. So we're estimated to need a lot of units. We declined in our number of rental units, but there have been 2024 announcements you've probably seen with a commitment to create or rehab an incredible number of homes. You'll hear here soon, wink, wink, you heard it from me, an even greater commitment in that regard because MSHA is doing an incredible job and they're blowing past their targets and really supporting communities across our state and meeting our housing goals. So we're going to get this done. Okay, I'm going to send this to y'all because no one wants to read this many bullets. But we're talking about, again, housing, transit, zoning reform, master plan reform, providing resources to local communities so they can get those things done to support housing development, for example, and also climate and sort of future-proofing resilience in our communities so we can prevent flooding, so we can increase placemaking like parks and green spaces. So these were the 3 things that our faster-growing peer states all had in common. This is the recap. They had faster hiring median incomes, educational attainment, and these walkable transit-rich places driving their growth. So those are our top priorities in terms of getting our metrics right. The first step is reversing that positive net migration. We're going to make it positive. We're not going to have out migration. We're going to bring more folks here than we're losing. We're going to keep our young folks here. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But the second bit is getting our metrics right. And the third is a path to becoming a top 10 state for growth. Whoever did my slide most recently, that used to say 2050. Did they just chop 25 years off my... What the heck? I have a bone to pick. That's not true. Propaganda. I had a longer runway than that when I started. Okay, well, I have a bone to pick with someone, but that eventually, when you do all this work and you model it out, you get to top 10 state for growth when you get that stuff done. So we've already seen, like I said, incredible momentum. We've learned these things and we put them to work. I'm optimistic because thousands and thousands and thousands of Michiganders have said, all right, sign me up. And they're holding us accountable too and saying, all right, get it done. And so in Governor Whitmer's budget recs, immediately from the report to the recs, between December 14th and January, a bunch of these recommendations showed up. You can see a bunch of them there. The legislature has already started passing legislation. For example, a child care piece of legislation that's moving through right now in reference to the recs. I've personally testified many, many times at this point in the legislature because they're so interested in our findings here. And arguably, I think, even more importantly, we have this outpouring of interest from communities and organizations across the state who want to be part of implementing this blueprint for growth. So our team is launching not only a tool to track our progress, but also this last bit here, a series of pilot programs and grants to do exactly what I said we were going to do, which is ensure that we can implement these strategies in a local way that's specific to our local communities. You know, those talent attraction and retention strategies I was talking about that are working so well in some of our other states. You want to try some? Because we're going to do our best to make sure that our communities have a little bit of resource to pilot some of these ideas, to position themselves as they want to be positioned to attract the kind of folks they think that they're a great fit for in their communities, and take some big swings here to spark growth. And whatever we learn is an incredible opportunity to put it at the top of the stack for statewide legislation when we are there, right? When we have more insight and finding. But local pilots, local work, localized impact is going to be critical to our growth. So that's the next stage. We're having incredible momentum with folks across the state who are fired up, who want to be ambassadors for our state. That's on here too. We're signing up sort of ambassadors to spread the word and share the message. We're doing more and more marketing. You Can in Michigan, our big talent marketing campaign, has come alongside our sort of iconic Pure Michigan campaign and already signed up in less than 6 months, 6,000 folks through our jobs portal who've said, I want to live and work in Michigan, including out-of-state applicants. The top state, Texas, in terms of out-of-state applicants. So we're reaching folks across the country. We're going to get this done together through our pilots, through our programs, our marketing, and our policy work. Boom, boom, boom. Said it. Bingo, bango. So what I need now is Diet Coke, and then and then even more partners and all of you. This wasn't, I hope you didn't look at it and say, gosh, she's going to be bored. This isn't a non-ambitious agenda. This is hard work. But Michiganders have always done hard things. This is the place that has always created the future, has created consumer products that have changed the world, has innovated new genres that have changed the way we live and move. No one is confused about that. But we need to make sure folks are thinking about us more often. We need to make sure we're retaining and attracting folks here so that we can lead the nation again in all these high growth industries we have a right to lead them in. We have an incredibly bright future if we get this done together. I hope you'll all join me. And thank you so much for having me today. Okay, I was told I have 2 questions. Time for 2. Yeah, way in the back.
Hello, I had the pleasure of hearing you last Friday at
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
at the climate
Oh, good.
conference, and you really stressed, obviously, for your audience, the role that clean
Yes.
energy and sustainability practices would have in the
Yes.
growth of Michigan. And we have in our area now a new organization, relatively new, still asking for new members.
Good.
The Mid-Michigan Business and Community Sustainability Partnership.
Awesome. Yay, Mid-Michigan.
What suggestions would you give to such a group that wants to really
Yeah.
sustainability in order to attract?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing I'd say as it relates to sustainability or frankly anything else, just having had the benefit of doing all this traveling, which honestly has been the joy of my career. It sounds so cheesy. I know, I'm so lame. I get it. But getting folks to spend this kind of time with you is such an honor. And I think representation really matters. So one thing that I've really tried to say a lot is if we want to know what young folks want and need in the place they call home, or what working folks want and need in the place they call home, or young families want and need, we don't have to guess. We can just ask them. And so I think that it's a hard thing sometimes, a standard to hold our groups to, but I would hope that we'd really open our arms to ensuring that we have, diverse representation of young folks in all of our spaces, including new ones, because those unique perspectives are so critical. And I think agency and ownership of those spaces will be so important when they help us retain and attract young people in our communities. So that's one thing I'd say. And because I didn't have I had more space, as you said, at the climate conference to get to share. I'd love to say in front of this whole group, when we talk about retaining and attracting young people, I think that one thing I noticed was that there was this instinct to say first, well, Michigan's really cheap. I kid you not. That was like the first thing out the gate. But don't you know, it's really affordable here. And going to New York's expensive, or going to LA is expensive, or whatever. Those things are true, that it's more expensive to live in those places. But what we find is that you want a great opportunity and a great quality of life and a great place. And if you have all those things and then it's also more affordable, go team. But it's one and then the other, right? You can't lead with the latter and keep folks, interested. Right? And so when I think a lot about our growth strategy, and I really have racked my brain about what our best pitch is to our young folks here in our state and across the country, I think completely that climate is a critical part of that story. Because frankly, in the same way that a young person might say, I'm at the top of my game if I'm in finance and I go to Wall Street, I truly believe that if you want to do purpose-driven work in the climate space, or in the fight against the climate crisis, or in clean energy, or whatever, there isn't a better place to be. I think Michigan will be at the vanguard of those industries, and you can see it in our numbers that we're pulling down, number one in all these different rankings, and because of our ability to both invent and manufacture, it's such a good holistic industry for Michigan to show how great we can be. And so part of our sort of strategy moving forward absolutely includes ensuring that young people know, if you picked your head up off your pillow in Michigan, these are auspicious times. And you're exactly where you're meant to be, if that's the work that you want to do. So that they know, they're at the top of their game right now. So I would just share that as well. I know we have one more. Yes. Hi, award winner. Hello.
The data supports that childcare is a huge constraint for growth,
Yeah.
especially for young families, right?
Absolutely.
In the childcare space, the majority of parents are millennials.
Yep.
I see all the data that you presented was pre-K to higher
Yes.
education.
In our stats, yeah.
Infant and toddler care is the greatest constraint
Totally.
for us. So I didn't know if you have any data around that or
Yeah.
supporting information.
Yeah, we did most of our, absolutely. So the data presented there was mostly on education outcomes, though, as you well know, having childcare and early childcare, even before pre-K, has incredible impacts on education outcomes. The way that most of our childcare work in this study was around sort of labor force participation, family constraint, economic growth, constrained economic growth as a result of not being able to participate in the labor force, or frankly, because folks have to spend all their money on childcare. And because the challenge we have with childcare providers as well is enormous. We have a huge talent gap in that regard, keeping folks in the industry, for example. So we've looked at the data from sort of this labor and economic perspective in this analysis, more than from an educational outcome perspective, though they both bear fruit. That's why childcare is such, I think, a wonderful rallying cry for so many folks, and there was such broad support, sort of irrespective of your political leaning, because no matter how you come to it, there's a great reason why we should think about, solving some of these challenges. And there's a Child Care for All piece of legislation, like I flagged, that's being considered right now in the legislature that attempts to think about both sides of the market, the provider and the challenge with talent, as well as the challenge that that individual families are facing. One more plug for us millennials out there. I'm a geriatric elder millennial. But if you want another stat to brag about, Michigan is top. You mentioned a lot of Michigan millennial families with kids. Michigan is a top 10 state for millennial homeownership. Actually, I think we're 5, maybe, doing quite well on millennial homeownership. And with Gen Z, we're also seeing that small Midwestern communities, not our biggest cities, small Midwestern communities are the top places that we're seeing Gen Z buy homes and access housing. So there are real opportunities in those kinds of communities across our state to think about attracting folks via, housing investment and some of these like childcare supports. Yeah. Okay, I think I did it. All right, thank you, Jim. Thank you.
I'm just going to add that it's going to take all of our efforts, as she mentioned, it's going to take all of our efforts to turn this population issue around. So I'm in. Are all of you in? Good. Let's work together. Okay, we have one last item on our agenda. Thanks to Capital Region Airport, Fly Lansing, we have a $500 travel voucher, and that was if you put your card in or your paper in at the beginning, that's what we're going to have this drawing right now. So, Hilary, if I could ask you to.
I feel like Vanna White. I have a future in pulling the lotto ball. Does a human still do that? Okay. I don't know what that is.
All right. Eke. Okay. All right. Right back there. Allison has the voucher. All right. Well, that concludes our annual meeting here and our breakfast, and thank you all for coming. This is a great turnout once again. Let's all work together to grow our state. Thank you very much.